It's Sunday, April 26th, 2026, and this is season 5, episode 14 of Two Guys on Politics, broadcast on the U.S. Arab Radio Network on WNZK AM 690 radio, as well as on YouTube at twoguysonpolitics.com. I'm Ray Hanania, and we'll meet our co-host, former Congressman Bill Lipinski from the southwest side of Chicago and Illinois. In today's podcast, Bill and I are going to talk about what's everybody talking about this week? Another assassination attempt. Was it against Trump? Was it against his administration? Maybe it was the news media. We don't know for sure, but they finally did identify the suspect. We're going to talk about Kash Patel. Is he reliable as the director of the FBI? Certain media say no, and he filed a massive lawsuit, libel suit, defamation suit against the Atlantic based on some stories they wrote questioning his reliability and other issues he has. Trump filed charges, got an indictment, I guess, against the Southern Poverty Law Center, which is alleged for paying informants who are at extremist groups like the Ku Klux Klan. Then we'll do a little update on the war in Iran, what's happening with the ceasefire. Is there a ceasefire? I don't know. This word ceasefire doesn't seem to have much meaning anymore. And then finally, if we have time, hopefully we will talk about Somali fraud in Minnesota and the role of U.S. Representative Ilhan Omar, her failure to do something about it. All right, we're going to take a break. When we come back, we'll talk about these and other topics possibly. I'm Ray Hanania.
I'm Bill Lipinski, and this is Two Guys on Politics. And the next voice that you will hear will be the voice. I don't know. Good morning, Ray. Good to see you.
Yeah, I like when you put the next and voice together, it shortens into noise instead of next voice. It's just noise. I think that's what I almost said, noise.
It's welcome, Bill. Consciously, I say that.
Welcome to another episode of Two Guys on Politics, everybody. We got a nice group of topics. Were you surprised, Bill, when last night, this is Sunday that we're doing this podcast today, and last night, Trump went to the White House Correspondents' Dinner, and he admittedly, after the press conference, said that he had planned to really rip him a new one. But now he said, oh, kumbaya, this assassination attempt, or this gunman, we don't know if they're there to assassinate Trump or assassinate who, has brought everybody together. Democrats, Republicans, independents, the news media, the Trump administration, everybody, they're just all hugging and kissing, and it was such friendly. And he said, we decided to postpone it because of all this stuff, but my speech the next time is going to be so much more positive, given the way everybody came together. That's what he said. First of all, do you believe him? And two, what is this with assassination attempts?
Well, I believe him last night. How long he will continue to think that way is probably another story. I understand he wants to reschedule the dinner in the next 30 days to show the world that we can come together, all Americans, be positive. I hope and pray that that's the case. I'm very doubtful about that because he has contributed as much to this division as the progressive Democrats and the liberal Democrats. The one thing I do want to say, though, is that the Democrats always complain about the Republicans being, violent. But it seems to me that it's the poor Republicans who have been attacked 4 times now in the last year and a half in a very violent way. And Trump has always seemed to be at the scene. So people probably are after him more than anybody else. And I think we should recognize that. Now, the situation last night, I don't know if this guy planned this for a long time Trump had not decided to come to this until relatively recently. So I think there's a good chance he was more after uh, members of the administration. And I think that he just got lucky with the fact that Trump was there. And I'm sure if he could have got to Trump, I'm sure he would have shot him. But I don't really think that he was the original target. I think members of the administration, the head of the FBI, the head of the Justice Department, the head of the Transportation Department, I know all of those people were there. There were probably others there also as part of the administration. And I think that was his original targets.
Yeah, as you pointed out earlier, I don't think this guy was actually after Trump directly, only because Trump didn't decide until the very last minute to go to the White House Correspondents Association. He's never been to any of them. And he went there with the intent to really kind of skewer them. He was going to really roast them really bad. So everybody was expecting conflict. But you noted that that was the word that he had been planning this for months, right? This
Correct.
assassin.
Yes.
And so we don't know. Maybe he was just trying to go after, as you say, some of Trump's cabinet members, some of the Marco Rubio or Kash Patel, or this new justice guy. It also could be that maybe he was upset with the news media. Maybe he's a Trump guy and he's upset with the news media. We don't know. We have no idea. But what was interesting to me is how Trump tried to make it look like America is coming together. This is a moment that brings America together. I don't agree with that. I think Trump, basically, when you listen to his press conference last night afterwards, it was disturbing to me how he said, only the great people like myself have been the targets of assassins. They don't kill the dumb people. They don't try to assassinate the losers. And, he's referring to everybody that was before him. And then he's associating himself with Abraham Lincoln, the attempt on Ronald Reagan. I see Trump as probably the worst president we've ever had. I think it has nothing to do with the greatness of president, but I do think it has to do with the controversies, like with Kennedy. One of the big problems with Kennedy that he had was he was going to withdraw the United States from the Vietnam War. He wanted to extract this country from that war. And he also had made some really strong statements about Israel, based on Eisenhower's policies, in 1956. So there were a lot of very big controversies at the time that might have provoked his assassination. Trump, I think it's the environment of hostility that is creating this, because I think this is the third time, isn't it?
This is the fourth time, actually. There was one
Fourth.
time. Yeah, this is the fourth time that someone tried to assassinate him or assassinate people very close to him. But I want to go back to what you had to say about John
Sure.
Kennedy.
Yeah.
All of those things that you just mentioned were not in the news at the time of the Kennedy assassination. I mean, I was following
Right.
news very closely at that time. I had followed the presidential election between him and Nixon, and we heard none of those things that you make mention of. I'm not saying that they were not true,
Right.
but I'm simply saying that the general public was not aware of it. No, I've always thought that Lee Harvey Oswald was simply someone who was a deranged person and had some personal grievance with John Kennedy. What it
Right.
was, I have no idea. I don't think there was any great conspiracy against him. I don't think this guy was really motivated by any, real reasons. I think it was all in his mind that Kennedy was trying to do something against him, and he decided to go get Kennedy. And I just wanted to make that clear because I was following the news at the time. As I say, I'm not saying many of the things that you mentioned were
Right.
not going on, but no one really knew about those things at the time. Most people thought, frankly, that this guy was either an agent of Cuba because he had spent some time in Cuba, or a member of the mafia because of the
Right.
fact that supposedly there was supposed to be some deals between Joe Kennedy and the mafia to help his son get elected president. And what did Kennedy do? He appointed his brother Robert to go after the mafia almost as soon as he got into office. So even back then, there were stories that you could believe what you wanted to believe based upon your political preference.
Yeah. Well, what's interesting about what you said is that either the gunman that tried Lee Harvey Oswald was motivated by events in the news, but a lot of the news, ending the Vietnam War was not a big no. He wasn't Kennedy wasn't talking about that, but he was planning it, and the military industrial complex, the leaders of that and the FBI were aware of it. They knew what he was trying to do. So a lot of that has always fed the idea that Oswald, and I don't want to distract from our focus here, but it does apply to this thing with Trump in a way. There are a lot of people that believe that was a suggestion that that's why it was insiders who brought Oswald in, who recruited
But
him
Ray,
to assassinate Kennedy.
all of that stuff started coming out, months, years after the original assassination. I mean, I remember not hearing anything at all about Kennedy wanting to pull out of uh,
Right.
Vietnam. Okay, nothing whatsoever.
But it happened to be, as it turned out, though, the administration was talking with the military and the generals. It just wasn't reported. But you're right, it did come out later, years later. One of the problems was his assassination changed the whole approach to how everybody looked at his administration. But the point I'm trying to make is that if you're in the public and you're aware of these things, it's a response from the public. If these things are not that public, where does the assassination come from? It comes from inside. This one, I think, with Trump, this is about public angry with him, the things that he's doing, the conflicts that he has in his rhetoric, his broken promises, all the things he said he was going to do. He's completely done the opposite, and it's been so dramatic. It's hurt a lot of people, and I see extremists coming out of the woodwork, people that are, angry, but a few of them go past the line and want to do something. I don't think this is going to be the last one we're going to see. I think
Unfortunately,
yeah, it's going to keep happening because he is contentious. But from Trump's standpoint, he is under siege. And we know he's under siege because of the way he's been approaching the war in Iran. He was going to go in there and destroy him. Well, it turns out he didn't destroy Iran. And now it's been like, what, 6 weeks? And we're spending $1 billion a day, and it's ruining the economy. Our gasoline prices are going up. In fact, there's talk about windfall profit limits, that they should step in and prevent the oil companies from profiting from these windfall profits, from taking these windfall profits, make them accept whatever profits they would have gotten at $80 a barrel, and anything above that, because they're saying it's going to go up to $200 a barrel. I don't know if you remember, Bill, when he brought the oil companies in, when he first was elected president this
yes,
term,
I do.
and he had that big meeting with them. We're going to all work together. The industry is going to be great. We're going to have rules and regulations. I can't help but to think that all of this is being done. It's hard not to believe it. You don't want to believe it, but it's hard not to believe that Trump is doing this specifically for reasons that benefits himself, his family, which is becoming very wealthy in the past year, and his pals that own the oil companies, these wealthy people, the powerful. I think that angers people. That belief really triggers people. And you're right, we're going to see more of this.
Well, I don't think that, I don't believe what you just said. I mean, there are a lot of people in this country who do believe it. I don't believe it. I believe that this anti-Trump is because of the way he has conducted himself, the things that he had to say about people. He deliberately tried to antagonize people. Somehow
Right.
he thought it was advantageous to him. But let me ask you a question right now. You brought up the war. What do you think that we should do? What should the United States of America do about the situation we find ourselves in Iran at the present time?
Withdraw, go back
Withdraw?
to the negotiating table the way and negotiate an agreement that we had. We had one. I think it is an outright lie that Iran was developing a nuclear bomb. I believe that's an easy to believe claim. That's an assertion that's made by people, other countries that are fighting with Iran. I think even Trump, you go to the White House website and it says Israel needed us to fight this war, so we engaged in the war. This war wasn't fought because it was to protect Americans. This war was being fought to do other things and change the dynamics. And in the beginning, I think Trump thought, yeah, we'll take them out. We can just blow them up. We can destroy them. They'll come begging us. But even the Iranian Americans, we talked about this last time, are concerned about what he's doing. I think we need to step back. War is not a solution to conflict,
Well, what do
political
you mean?
conflict.
What do you mean step back?
I think we should step back. I think that we should continue to engage in negotiations, legitimate negotiations. You don't sit and you and I don't say, Bill, we have a disagreement. I want to talk with you. Let's negotiate. And while we're negotiating, I bomb your house. What are you going to do? You're going to step back and say, I'm not negotiating with you. You're a liar. That's what's happening with Iran. I don't think we're getting the full story. I think Trump is trying to manipulate this he's on TV and his reality show, The Apprentice, where he's trying to make things up. I don't trust Trump. I don't believe Trump. I think that what he's doing is causing us great distress and undermining the economy. And I think everyday Americans are being hurt more and more. And I'm upset with him saying, oh, it's not so bad. We have the best economy we've ever had. This guy's delusional. He is a threat to our country, in my opinion. I
Do you
really
believe?
do believe that.
Okay, I disagree with you. Many of the things that you say are correct, but I disagree with you. But you want to
Sure.
withdraw from the situation. Okay, do we pull out of the blockade?
Yes. I think we go back to
All right, what do
opening
we?
the
Okay,
Strait of
now
Hormuz.
we pull out of the blockade. What do the Iranians do about opening up the straits for free and fair passage of whatever ship wants to go through
What
there?
what they were always doing for the past 2 years, ships were going through there without any problem. From all even Israeli ships were going through the Straits of Hormuz. The only time it became a problem is when Trump stepped in and when Israel stepped in. They wanted to take out the leaders, as you mentioned in the last show. They were aware of this meeting, and the Israelis said to Trump, "This would be a great opportunity to take them all out and end this." It
Well,
didn't end any. It didn't end anything.
why did Israel and the United States want to take out the leadership? From what I have read and heard, it's because they felt that Iran was building an atomic bomb. And if
That's
the
Israel's claim. That's Israel's
well, that's the United
assertion.
States
The
claim
government.
also.
We embraced it. We never said that. We didn't say it until Israel's government. And by the way, I emphasize always, I'm not criticizing Israel or Israelis. I am criticizing Netanyahu's government. He hates Iran. He's under indictment. He's been delaying his court prosecution because of this conflict that started now. It's delayed 5 years. It was going to come to a halt. They were going to bring charges back. They were going to restart that. And then suddenly we have this war in Iran that is never ending. And then we have the war in Lebanon. Um, my opinion is he convinced Trump to join that. And that's where the problem is. If
But the,
Israel wants to go fight the Iranians, they've been doing it for years. They've attacked, they've bombed. They didn't need us, but I think he believed that he could get Trump to go in there and completely destroy the country. And Trump almost did that, but realized that the cost to do that is too great for the American people.
Well, I think that the President Biden, Obama, going all the way back to George Bush the first, believed that the Iranians were trying to develop an atomic bomb. It
Right.
wasn't Trump administration that attacked them alone. There were other attacks by other administrations. So I disagree with the fact that the Israelis convinced Trump, that they were going to build an atomic bomb. I think the United States on their own believed that they were trying to build an atomic weapon, okay, so they could blackmail, intimidate the Gulf Coast states
So
that are at least neutral. Now they're with us. They won't be with us if we pull out of there because they'll once again be at the, the
they
Iranian.
weren't with us in the beginning. The only reason they were with us was that Iran lost its leadership and started firing rockets that ended up landing in the Gulf states, and they got upset.
There are allies.
Well, yeah, because they got dragged into it, but they were never with us from the beginning to start this war. Saudi Arabia and a lot of those Gulf countries were negotiating with the Iranians to bring down the conflict. I think Israel's government didn't want that. I think Israel's government has avoided that. And the fact is, last year, I mean, we want to forget the fact that last year, the U.S. and Israel bombed the hell out of Iran, bunker bombs. They targeted the biggest centers. They told us that these were where they were building these bombs. We totally decimated it. We destroyed it. We extinguished everything. That was Trump's claim after that last summer. And now, within 6 months, they're within weeks of building a nuclear bomb after losing all their. This is baloney and lies.
There were other locations that we didn't know about. That's why we could say we obliterated everything that we knew about it. Trump, as usual, talks about things that are a little bit over the top, which doesn't help the overall situation. But I disagree with you in regards to the situation where we're at. I believe that they wanted to build an atomic bomb. They wanted to be able to intimidate people around them. They probably even wanted to try to intimidate us, which would have been ridiculous if we had a president that was smart and would stand up to them. Now,
but the word probably is not the basis for a war, is it, Bill? Come on. They were probably going to do that. That's the problem that I have with all of this.
Have they not threatened other countries?
Over 47 years, they have. Countries that have threatened them.
To America.
Countries.
Death to America. Yeah.
Yeah, why would they say death to America? Because we were the ones that supported the Shah for 40 years, who massacred more than 1 million Iranians.
By the same token.
And we protected them.
But then we withdrew our support of the Shah.
After he died. After he died.
That's not true, Ray. Come on now.
Well, we brought him out of Iran. He escaped. He left Iran to get medical treatment and came to the United States with our help. And while he was out, they took over the country. It wasn't because we withdrew our support of the Shah and allowed the people of Iran to take over. He was overthrown while he was outside of Iran, and the people took over. And we tried to work with the Iranians, but they wanted the Shah back, and we wouldn't give the Shah back to them to face prosecution. And that's what started our conflict.
But I want to get back to the present day situation, because we'll never agree on that one. Okay,
that's all right.
I believe that we should enter into negotiations once again with the Iranians. Okay, I think we should keep the blockade in place, because I think it is hurting them economically very, very much. And I believe actually if we keep it in place long enough, they will have to give in on a number of different issues. If they don't, I say we resume the military activities there. I don't think that we can walk away from this. I think if we walk away from this, it will be a terrible mistake. I think the Iranians then will feel like they defeated the United States of America. They will go after all our allies in the Middle East, I believe, and they'll probably start going after some of our allies in Europe also. That's how I feel about it. Now, I've always supported the war, but I've only supported it if we get rid of the regime, the first layer, the second layer, the third layer, the fourth layer. I strongly believe that. If we came to fight, we should come to win. That's my
Yeah.
position.
Yeah, I don't think we went in there to win because there was no strategy. We went in there because we just thought we'll bomb the hell out of them back to the Stone Age. I really believe that was Trump's original belief that we have so many bombs and powerful army. He is not going to put boots on the ground because he knows that if he does that, it'll be even worse for him. He's stuck in a political quagmire between now and November where he's trying his best to minimize the losses that the Republicans are going to have, that everybody sees. And he is now trying to change things to come across like he did last night, Mr. Nice Guy. He is worried. This whole suspension of the war in Iran, I think, is because of the politics of the midterm elections. And I think he's trying to bring this back. Otherwise, he would have continued bombing Iran. But he sees it's backfiring on him. And I don't think it's even about the Straits of Hormuz
Well, it's backfiring on him politically, yes.
Yes.
But there's nothing he's going to be able to do about changing the results of the midterm elections now. They are going to lose the House. They may lose the Senate. I don't care what he does. It's too late to change things around. I know people say it's a long way to November, but this animosity towards him and the Republicans is not going to wane between now and November.
I agree.
So
I agree with
he should
that.
do the right thing and he should finish off the war. It may have been poorly planned, but you cannot tell me that we do not have the military, the technology to take out whatever leadership surfaces at Iran.
We do not.
Until we finally find someone who is willing to be somewhat moderate and we can really negotiate with.
I totally disagree with you. We do not have the capability to take out and change Iran. It sounds like we do, but I always point to Afghanistan and Iraq, two of the weakest countries in the world, and it took us years and thousands of American soldiers to go there and occupy those countries, and we left it, and look where we're at with them today. They are not our friends. They're our enemies. They are because what?
Because
right.
Because we did not fight those wars to win either. That's been our problem. We get ourselves involved in these wars, and we fight them with one arm tied behind our back.
I don't know, Bill. We fought to win, and I thought we did win until we lost. And it's every major war, including the Vietnam War. This is the problem with, and again, I mean, listen, Bill, I disagree with you, and but I respect your opinion.
I respect your opinion too.
But this debate that we're having is a debate that's being done across the country.
Absolutely.
And we're friends. We've known each other forever, going back to the late 70s. So it's easy for us to allow this thing to kind of blow up like we're angry with each other. We're not.
No,
but outside of this,
I'm not angry with you at all.
I know that. I'm saying because with us, it's normal. But outside of this circle between you and I, the American people are having this very debate, and it's getting contentious. It's getting argumentative because they are suffering from this economy that is horrible that Trump pretends is not a problem. And I think that the real thing isn't that he's going to lose control of the House and the Senate. It's the extent of how great that loss is going to be. He's trying to minimize that. I don't think he can prevent the takeover of the House, but I really think in his mind, he thinks he can prevent a massive takeover of the Senate, even more so than just one or two seats. That's what he's worried about.
What will prevent the massive takeover of the Senate by the Democrats is the fact that there aren't that many seats open that are Republicans this time around. If there are more seats up for a re-election or election, he would have the possibility of taking it over by a wide enough margin to do a lot of things. I don't think that's possible to happen at the present time. And as far as the House goes, we have seen in the last 2 years, if you have a 3-4 vote majority, if you operate correctly to protect your side, you can keep the minority from doing anything, unfortunately.
Right. Right. Yeah, no, I agree. I think it's a political problem that's driving Trump's decisions and his actions. I really believe that's what
I
it
think
is.
that's terrible.
Yeah,
We should not allow political decisions to be involved in military decisions whatsoever. And
I
I think
agree with
that
you.
he is doing that today very definitely.
All right, Bill, we got to take a break, but I want to come back to talk just a little bit about Kash Patel, the FBI director,
Sure.
the Southern Poverty Law Center. And then if we can get into Somali fraud. I think we talked about the war in Iran enough, so we can take that off the agenda for the second half. Let's take a quick break. When we come back, we'll continue this discussion. We'll be right back right after these messages. Yeah, Bill, we had a nice discussion in the first segment. The second segment, though, we're going to look just a little bit at the FBI director, Kash Patel. He filed a lawsuit against Atlantic Magazine last week for $250 million, a defamation lawsuit, claiming that an article that they wrote about about mismanagement at the FBI under his leadership was the result of his alleged excessive drinking, that he's drunk, and that he is using the FBI as a malicious agency to do political attacks against the critics and opponents of the Trump administration. I saw him last night during the press conference that Trump held. He got up there to talk. He was kind of rambling. There wasn't an intelligent thing he said, except that he gave me this sense when you look at somebody, I have this sense of foreboding when I see him. He worries me. He's not the guy that I want to see be the FBI director. It's like this guy is like a bulldog for Trump rather than somebody that's overseeing such an important agency.
The way he carries his body, the way he looks at you, his glasses, he reminds me of a robot, truthfully. I'm not really sure that he's a human being because of the way he conducts himself. But I want to say, I said that about him. I have one more thing to say about him, and that is I heard him when he was on the radio, when he was a talk show host. Him,
Right.
the fellow who used to be his assistant at the FBI. Both
Right.
of them were totally and completely in Trump's corner. They criticized everything that the Democrats did. They praised everything that Trump did. They praised most of the things that the Republicans did. I don't believe either one of them should have ever been placed in the position
Right.
heading the
That,
FBI or being
that
the
was
assistant to the FBI. All right. I think they
that
got
was Don that
jobs.
was Dan Bongino, right? And he was a nut job off the deep end also. He was
I'm
the assistant director of the
Yes,
FBI.
yes, he was. And
And he was scary. He was frightening.
now he's back doing podcasts once again.
Yes.
And I'm sure he's making tons and tons of money off of those
Yes.
podcasts because both of these guys made a lot of money originally in going after anyone that was against Trump. So I think they both got their appointments because they were these voices on radio and TV in
Yes.
support of Trump. I don't think they had any background for it. Now, Dan Bongino may have been at one time a police officer in the city of New York or
Mhm.
in the district attorney's office in the city
Right.
of New York. It was one of those two. But I don't think either one of them were qualified for the job. And I don't think that the Secretary of Defense, I mean, he gets up there and the way he talks, it's like he's playing a video game. Some of the words that he uses. All three of those people, I think, are individuals who really are doing Trump no good whatsoever. He got rid of two people who were doing him no good. I think there's a few more he should get rid of. I think that would help him considerably in the eyes of the American public. That's all I have to say on that
Yeah,
subject.
I think it's too late to change the perspective of the American people. He could get rid of anybody he wants at this point. I don't think it's going to change anything.
Well,
Um,
I'm not talking about the election, the midterm election, which is coming up in November. I'm talking about his term of office as president. Will have 2 years to go after November. I still think it's possible for him to turn some people around and say that this guy was a good president. Right now, what has he got? 20% of the people think he's doing a good job.
yeah,
That
it's
has to
terrible.
be killing him. I think if he really looks at his administration and makes some wise decisions, changes things around, I think at least he could get himself up to close to 50%. And that, I think, will help his ego, and it will help the United States of America in many, many areas also.
Well, that will not be anything that Trump pursues because it's his very personality that prevents him from being a normal person, in my opinion.
No,
So
you might
even
be
though
right.
if you're right that all these changes, a reasonable person might look and say, yeah, let's try and do things right. He's not that way. He never has been. He's proven that he's just a horrible person, and things that he does, nothing has, I mean, I agree with some of the things that he wanted to do: close the borders, bring sanity to our immigration policies, crack down on crime, strengthen the economy. That was his big thing. He was a businessman. He was going to strengthen. He said, I'm a businessman. I know how to negotiate. I know how to bring these people in line. And we're going to eliminate the Obamacare and replace it with a real health care plan for the American people. We have gotten none of that. All we've gotten are more expenses. And the irony was, I look back at gasoline prices over the last 8 years. I'm a weird person, Bill. When I go and get gas, I take pictures of the gas prices. I've been doing it for years. And I started looking back, and under the Biden administration, the price of gas was at $3.60 a gallon. It went down a little bit. He was able to bring it down to like $2.80. But as soon as the Trump came back in, it started going up, and it's continued to go up to the point where it's almost $6 a gallon in some places.
And
Now, a lot of
California,
the
yes.
yeah, California here, it's relative though. I mean, even it's pushing $5 a gallon at the pumps out here, and a lot of that we have to blame on our governor J.B. Pritzker and the state taxes that they put on, the county, state, and local taxes they put on gasoline. The point is that he will never change. What will happen is he will turn to the media, I think. If he loses control of the White House, this is probably a topic we should really talk about. What would happen? The media is going to go berserk on him. They're going to get their vengeance on him. They're going to break stories now
I
without
think
worrying
they've
about
already been. I
well, they
think they've been
tried.
berserk on him for quite a while. He deserves it, okay? I don't think they
Yes.
can do much worse, quite frankly. But
I
I
think
want
they
to
can
state once
expose
again for the
things.
record, I never voted for him. Not the first time, the second time, or the third time. I originally thought he would be a very poor president. I was correct. Unfortunately, the people who he has run against ran very poor campaigns
Right,
against him. The only
right,
one that ran a halfway decent campaign was Biden, and Biden
right.
won. But most of that was self-inflicted by
Yes.
Trump. I will never forgive him for what happened in January when all those people rushed the Capitol and tried to
Yes.
stop the House from, approving the election. That was an insurrection. I wish that we could have pursued that at the time, and I think we could have held him responsible for it. But unfortunately, it passed. Americans have a short memory. We reelected him president. We have to try to live up to our Constitution, our Declaration of Independence. He is the president, so we have to support him. And I have supported many of the things he's wanted to do, but I've never supported him in an election. And I hope that the people understand that when I'm defending some of the things that he has done, It's because I think that they were correct over and above the fact that it was supported by him.
Yeah, no, I understand that, Bill. I totally do. I think that you raised an interesting point that we didn't even have on the agenda. The election they had in Virginia, where the voters approved the remap in the middle of the season. They do this every 10 years. Suddenly, it was Trump though that started pushing for the gerrymandering of districts in
Absolutely.
Texas, in I think three other states. He started doing it without voter engagement. But in Virginia, the voters were brought in and allowed to vote on it, and and the voters were given the opportunity, do you want to do this? And they agreed to do it. So now he's going to court to stop that. He wants to block it. He wants to prevent it, but he doesn't talk about how he's gerrymandering these other districts, because his only way to save himself is to steal the election. He's going to try to steal the election by changing the districts. And I think that that only reinforces the downslide that we're in. We're not going to stop this downslide until November. The November 3rd election is over. It won't be until November 4th whether we even have any hope that any of this is going to go away. The last thing we wanted to talk about, I think, well, two things: the Southern Poverty Law Center. What is that all about? I did some reading about it, and it seemed like the Southern Poverty Law Center was paying informants in extremist groups like the Ku Klux Klan to let them know what was going on. But it also seemed like, when I looked at it, that Trump just doesn't like black people, and the Southern Poverty Law Center criticized him many times, and this is his way of getting back at them.
Well,
What do you see as the conflict there?
well, there is an indictment by a grand jury saying that they have done many things wrong. One of the
Right.
things they have done is they have collected money from people in America, people from around the world. They have paid individuals to go into the Ku Klux Klan and to other extreme right-wing organizations and bring forward hate, more hate in those organizations to make the conservative right-wingers look bad. Now, I listened
So,
to
and let me just stop you just for a second, Bill, because I want to understand that's an important point. So, you're saying that the Trump people feel that they're trying to make these groups more hateful. They're
correct,
paying people to make it more hateful because it makes them look good. The
correct.
Southern Poverty Law Center and the left,
It
they
makes them
look
big,
better when there's more hate coming from these
right, and
extremist groups.
they can collect more money from people. Okay,
And
now,
the Southern Poverty Law Center says no, we were paying informants to
correct.
tell us what was happening so we can protect ourselves. Okay, go ahead. That's an important point. It
Well,
didn't
no,
come
it's very,
across in
very
the
important.
stories.
Uh,
Yes.
I watch a lot of talk shows on news on cable news networks. Uh, One, and I won't go into it, but there's one cable news network I watch quite a bit. Now, they have one person on there that says this money, these informants, were being used simply to ascertain what these hate groups were going to do. And the person that talked that way came across very strongly, gave a lot of evidence that that was the case. Someone also on that network, the same network, came out and went very, very strongly that they were paying people to make these hate groups more strident so they could raise money for the Southern, what is it, the Southern Poverty Law Center. I mean,
Yes.
I could not believe how two people on the same network could have such different opinions about a situation. This is something that should definitely be thoroughly investigated by as many people as possible so we could try to find out exactly what the truth is, because this is what is dividing this country so badly. And I wish people would realize that, it has always been said, if anything were to happen to this country in a negative way, it would be from within. And it just seems to me that we have an awful lot of individuals and groups working on dividing us in order to bring us down. And unfortunately, we have a president who, by the way he talks, is helping that situation. But
Yeah.
I think it's something that you and I both should investigate as much as possible, and perhaps donate a whole program to. And we have to, maybe we can discover what the truth is in this situation. But the people I was talking about, one was for them, one was against them. I respect both of them. I think both of them believed that they were telling the truth. I believe that both of them are honest people. I don't know how that's possible, but that's the
Well,
way it came across to me, and that's what's causing so much of the division in our nation.
yeah, and the problem in a normal situation, I would think that this would be resolved correctly. But this isn't a normal situation. Trump weaponizes the FBI. He weaponizes the Justice Department. He weaponizes lawsuits. He pushes out judges that are good, but they may be ruled against him or they don't agree with him. He's trying to manipulate the system to get what he wants. And I think that's what happened with the grand jury. I think that he manipulated that grand jury to give him what he wanted so he can go after them. We're not going to get the truth under Trump. We will have to wait till after he loses control. I don't know how much control Trump actually loses when he loses the House and the Senate, but he's going to lose a lot of the control moving forward. But I don't think we're going to get the truth.
Well, I think
And I'm worried.
I don't know when we'll ever get the truth. But at least you and I could try to, get to what we believe is the truth. I think that's why I think we should involve ourselves in this situation. The situation with Virginia, the people in Virginia voted for the redistricting. Okay. So it helps the Democrats, no question about it. But a judge that comes from a very, very Republican district said, no, they can't do that. It's against the law to do it. Okay. So they're going to appeal it to an appellate court. I don't know how the appellate court is going to rule. If it rules against the Democrats, then they'll appeal it to the Supreme Court. Now, the Supreme Court has already ruled that they can do this. They said that California did it and it was all right. So all the Republicans are doing here is fomenting more and more trouble by appealing it to various courts that will agree with them on the lower level. But when it gets to the Supreme Court is going to agree with the Democrats in Virginia. That's another thing that is causing the division in this country. I wish people could see it and understand it.
All right, Bill, we're really up against the line here. Unfortunately, I don't think we can get into the Somali fraud issue. But what was interesting about, and we could do that in our next episode that we do to talk about more about Somali fraud. Because what's interesting about it is it's being driven by the protection of the Democrats in Minnesota, and Trump is correct in trying to crack down on the fraud that is taking place in this huge immigrant population in Minnesota. It's the largest population of Somalis are right in that state. And the Congresswoman, of course, is Ilhan Omar. And instead of addressing the fraud, the Democrats have turned it into a political football. So I wanted to get into that, but I don't think we can do that. Bill, I thought we had a great show today. I mean, it's sad that the topics that we have to talk about are so contentious. I wish we were talking about better topics, but the world today in the U.S. is really rough.
Unfortunately, that is totally and completely true. I'd like to get into the Somalis next week's program, but Lord only knows what's going to happen between now and next week. So you can never guarantee what we're going to talk about. I think the program was good today. People have to, think about these issues, and people have to stand up for America. And that's all I'm asking them to do is think about the issues. Don't take somebody's word for it. Investigate it and decide what you
Absolutely.
think. That's the way America was meant to work.
I totally agree with that. All right. I'm Ray Hanania.
I'm Bill Lipinski, and this is Two Guys on Politics.
We'll talk to you again next week. Have a great week. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Bye bye.